Good morning and welcome once again to Tax Calc TV. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take a slightly different approach to the usual Tax Calc TV format today. First of all, we're obviously outside of our normal 2 o'clock on a Wednesday slot where we normally talk about tax or AML or how to win more business for your firm. But today we've got a slightly different vibe and we're going to be talking about a subject that clearly affects a huge number of people in the population generally, but also the accounting profession is no exception to that. Earlier this year, we released the results of our Accountant's Voice survey. And one of the standout stats that came out of that was that 86% of respondents described themselves as suffering from some form of stress or burnout. Whether this is a factor of just being in a pressurized environment of accounting or just simply because modern life is hard, it's something that we definitely wanted to address or begin to address. And the best way we could think of doing that was to talk about it. And that's what today is all about. So I'm joined by Tom Bickle, who was the first person who contacted me, many actually, saying how important they thought this issue was. So thanks for doing that, Tom. But I'm also joined by some doctors. So we are joined by doctors Fionn Hargard and Shamas Mohammed, who are the co-founders of Husu. And they are specialists in handling stress and burnout in the accounting sector and professional services. Guys, do you want to just introduce yourself and explain where you've come from and why you're here?
Yeah, of course. So thanks so much for having us, Andy. Really pleased to be here today. So I'm Fionn. I am a doctor. So I'm from Wales, moved up to Glasgow about 5 years ago. I've worked in a variety of different hospitals, different specialties, and my most recent role was working at a GP practice. So so lots of different things, and you're very similar, aren't you?
Yeah, similar. I'm from Glasgow, actually. I'm Shamas. Nice to meet you all. And yeah, similar to Phil, we're working as doctors, and a question that we get asked a lot is why two doctors started a company in the accounting space. And we kept seeing the same thing over and over again. Patients would come to see us with workplace stress, and at the point that they were coming to see us, we could really only do a few things. We could sign them off work, we could recommend some counselling, or we could give them some medication. We weren't really getting to the root cause of the issue. Now, at the same time, we've got quite a few friends and family members in accounting, and they were telling us a similar story. They were burnt out, exhausted, and just really struggling with the pressures. And when we had a look into the research and the statistics, we realised that at that point in 2024, CABA released a study that 74% of accountants reported symptoms of burnout, which is obviously a huge number. And yeah, with Andy's and Tax Calc's study recently, that's gone up to 86% of accountants reporting stress and burnout. So yeah, it's a huge issue, and we wanted to do something about it. Yeah.
So you've studied the causes, the impacts of stress, and you now provide a service. So if someone can come to you and say, "Hey, I'm stressed and burned out," and you will provide a holistic solution to that.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a diagnostic tool that we've built using a lot of the research based around burnout and stress, and then we can suggest interventions to help manage it.
Fabulous. Fantastic. So we were also due to be joined by Rob Newman, the wonderful Rob Newman, but unfortunately he's been called away at the last minute and unfortunately won't be able to join us. But we're hoping that Rob will be able to join us in a later session of We Need to Talk About Burnout. Hope you're well this morning, Rob, if you get a chance to watch the recording. Today, I mean, we're not going to be able to solve the problem of burnout in accounting or generally. But we do hope that we can provide some support and some resources, whether you yourself think that you are feeling burned out or stressed, or you know someone who is. We're going to talk about what stress is, how it affects you, how to spot it, how to identify it, and what to do if it becomes apparent. But before we start, this is a safe space, and talking is definitely a very good approach to handling stress. I've disabled any surnames in the chat, so you can talk openly in there. It'll only display your first name. The Q&A box is only for us. We will only see those questions. And if you do ask a question there, we won't reveal any names that are posted in there. So you can feel hopefully comfortable in talking, because this is what it's about. It's very much a two-way street here. So let's get started. And if I can ask you, Fionn and Shamas, what is stress and burnout? What is happening internally? What is medically happening?
Yeah, so really good question, and it's quite complicated with all the different pathways that
I just want a one-word answer. That's all.
So burnout is essentially the result of long-term workplace stress. So it's got three different categories. So exhaustion, whether that's mental or physical exhaustion, disengagement with your work or negative feelings towards your job, and reduced productivity and performance.
So what is medically happening though? Is it a chemical thing? I mean, I don't understand.
So with stress, what happens is it's an acute reaction. So your brain is hardwired to respond to threats. So it identifies pressure as a threat that it needs to get away from. So historically, that was really useful when the threat was a lion and you had to run away or try and fight it off, activating that fight or flight response. But nowadays in the workplace, could be an email sent at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon from a client asking you to fill in a tax return by Monday morning. So, but your brain doesn't tell that there's a difference between the lion and the email, so it reacts in exactly the same way. So what happens is your pressure triggers your fear center to switch on, so your amygdala. That fear center only has one job, to activate the fight or flight response. So that's when it releases a lot of adrenaline into your body, and that's why you feel the symptoms of stress, such as your heart racing, your breathing might get faster, and there's less blood flow going to your stomach, so you might have an upset tummy, things like that, because it's just focusing on getting away. What that means in a work environment is that your signals sending to your decision-making center slow down. So you find it much harder to think clearly and to make decisions. Similarly, your memory center, the signals also slow down coming from your memory center. So you find it much harder to remember information and to use that to solve the problem. And unfortunately, it is a cycle. So the more your brain reacts in this way, the more it remembers the pathway, and that's the automatic response. So when you have a lot of stress over a long period of time, that's when you start to experience burnout, because these pathways keep going round and round, and you're switching off all of the useful decision-making centers and things like that.
So it's that, because this concept of neuroplasticity, right? Where
exactly.
The brain kind of goes down the same paths out of habit.
Yeah,
exactly right. So it is reversible. You can train your brain to go down more useful pathways and sort of identify that actually this threat isn't life-threatening. It's not a fight or flight response. Actually, I just need to slow down, try and think clearly, and try and work around the problem. And the more that you do that, the more your brain is going to go down these positive pathways, and that's going to help protect you against feeling stressed and burnout as well.
So it's the long-term stress kind of hardwires itself in, and it then becomes, you fall into that much more easily every time. Yeah, it makes sense when you put it like that. Thank you for that.
That's okay.
Very useful explanation. So let's put a poll live. There's a poll in the bottom left-hand corner. This is going to go live, and I'd just be interested if any of you have experienced any of the symptoms that we've just talked about. Please indicate in there what kind of things that you've experienced. It would be interesting to see if it's all of them or just some of them. We'll follow that. But while you're taking part in that, I mean, it would be good, I would say, to talk. And I think it's for people who are struggling, hearing that other people do as well is really, really powerful and really important. So, I think, we all experience stress, but I mean, Tom, do you want to just talk about your experience, if you're happy to do that?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me today. It's great to see everybody in the chat. And so, yeah, it's going to be difficult to talk about, really, because a few years ago, I was in a position in my life where I'd been used to stress, and you do kind of think that's part of the game, that's part of the job, and you're told by everyone that's been through the profession for years that stress and anxiety is just part of it, and the deadlines, you get used to it, and you just have to crack on, kind of thing, and man up, and you hear those expressions used. And it got to a point where I just wasn't myself at all anymore. I was just incredibly exhausted all the time. I couldn't focus on much. I was really snappy. I think the biggest thing was, well, it's just decision fatigue. It was just there all the time. I'd get to the weekend and it was like deciding what to do with the kids at the weekend was such a difficult decision, because I spent all week trying to make decisions. It just felt really difficult to do that. I'd become like, I'd be sitting at my desk and I'd have a job to do, and I would struggle to just get that simple job done, because I'd be thinking in the back of my mind about all the other things I had to do. And I found myself flicking between different jobs all of the time. I couldn't really focus properly. And it was having a massive impact on my life and things at home. And, I spiraled into depression, and things just seemed to just keep getting worse. And it got to the point where my partner basically marched me down to the doctor and said, he won't come down here. He won't book in. He keeps saying it's normal to be stressed in life and things, and don't think there's anything right. Don't think there's anything wrong. And it got to the point the GP was like, look, I think you might be suffering with burnout. And I hadn't really come across that term before. And when the GP started to run through the symptoms, I was ticking all the boxes. And at that point, they intervened, and they got me support. And there's an organisation through the NHS in Devon called TalkWorks. And I went through the TalkWorks process and did some therapy with them. They don't fix anything in the sense that they don't fix what burnout is. That is still very much an individual thing that you have to go through, but they gave me the toolkit in how to deal with it and identify the symptoms a lot sooner. So even now, I can see that I'm going down that route again. And now I can identify it and address it a lot sooner and go, right, I've got a problem here. If I don't address this now, I'm going to be, suffering with burnout again. So, and I think the reason why I was really keen to talk to you, Andy, when you did that report, is that if it wasn't for my partner talking to me and saying, look, something seriously isn't right, you need to get some help, and then talking to my friends to say, look, I've been to the doctor, this is what they've said, and then suddenly your friends say, yeah, I totally get that, been through similar, and at that point now I've got people that I know and I see them, and I think they might not know that they're going through burnout, because I certainly didn't, but then I open up and talk about my experiences, then even if one person hears this today and says, do you know what, maybe I need to go and get some help, then it's worth talking about it, because just that one person might be able to help. So that's kind of why I'm coming at it with today. So it's great that, you know, Taxcalc and Fionn and Shamas are involved today, because I think it's part of our industry that is just not talked about. You know, I'm sure there's people in the chat today that have heard it before from people you've worked with. You know, it's just you have to get used to it. You're going to be in stress all the time. You're going to have to deal with all the deadlines, and yeah, it's hard to address that and admit that maybe you do need to get some help.
I think it's very true. Thanks for sharing that, Tom. I mean, it's something that is all too common, and I think the interesting thing is that what you were saying earlier is there's stress, and then there's that bit where it just becomes kind of unbearable, and it becomes that pervasive and sticks in your head. I mean, I've been in situations where people have just asked me simple questions, you know, about, you know, what are we going to do in the meeting tomorrow, and I've literally not been able to frame an answer to that, and it's I just can't actually bring myself to speak sometimes, and it is really difficult. I'd be interested just to explore just a little there, if you don't mind. You said, you know, your wife marched you down to the doctor, or went to the doctor, said he's not going to come. What was kind of going on there with your reluctance? Because a lot of people report that, and you know, I think it's understandable, but I'd just be interested in sort of what was going through your head.
I think a lot of it goes down to years and years of being told you're a bloke. You know, blokes, chin up. You know, you've got to get on with it. That's part of life. And there is still I still think there's a massive stigma around men in particular reaching out for help, and anybody in any walks of life saying there might be something not quite right, and I should go and get some help. And I still think, you know, not getting political or anything, mental health funding is massively underfunded in this country, and it isn't spoken about enough. There isn't enough people talking about what support there is out there, and a lot of people don't realize there is that huge amount of support. And yeah, I think at the time it was just a case of a lot of pride in saying, no, I can fix this myself, I can get out of this, you know, I shouldn't feel this way. So yeah, I did need that help from someone, just to say, no, come on, get some help, you know, just go and do it. And I must admit, it wasn't a conversation. This was months of my partner being really supportive and saying, look, you need to get some help. There's only so much I can do as your partner. And yeah, it wasn't until we went to an expert, and then you're talking to a doctor who has seen the symptoms, they know what they're talking about, that they could then start to give me that support I needed to get the toolkit to fight it. But yeah, I think a lot of it is down to just saying, no, this is part of the job. You know, this is part of being a dad. This is part of being an adult. You just got to crack on, which I want to make sure that I don't pass that attitude on to my kids. So I'm trying to make sure that I speak about it openly, in the hope that other people will hopefully get some help as well.
I mean, you're absolutely right. That sense of, I should be able to handle this, and it shouldn't be something that I'm struggling with, because yeah, like you say, I mean, you've got a big beard, Tom. You should be able to handle anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, I think I've only got a small one, so I'm, you know, but I think you're absolutely right. It's the sense of, kind of undermines the whole self-worth, right, of you as a person, especially as I don't want to, you know, but as a dad, it's like, well, that's you also as a mum too, you know, you've got to be able to do that. A comment in the chat there, you know, the phrase "man up" is not helpful in this.
Yeah,
So
I totally agree. I really don't like that expression, because I know incredibly strong men and women who I think actually admitting that they needed help was the strongest thing they could have done, because battling on your own and having the attitude of, I'll get out of this on my own, you know, we're not all made on our own, if that makes sense. The reason why we're able to build ourselves up is through other people and through that support. And doing anything on your own is a lot harder than getting the support from other people. So yeah, the whole expression of man up, I totally disagree with it. Just don't like it.
Yeah. And finally, just from your particular story, what happened then when you spoke to the doctor? What did they do? And what was the point when you kind of felt that, okay, I'm getting out of this and I'm coming through? What actually happened?
I sat in the GP office with my partner, and I had my, like, someone, Michelle was put up a wall. I did exactly the same. Didn't want to talk at all whatsoever. Didn't want to admit anything was wrong. And then it was almost like the dam broke down, and I just poured my heart out to the doctor about what was going on, and they intervened. And straight away it was, right, okay, mental health support. This is who we're going to get you in touch with. And they reached out very soon afterwards to book an appointment. And then at that point, it was, the support was there from the NHS to help me. So they give you a lot of tools when I was doing it. It's cognitive behavioural therapy, and it was more about understanding why I was feeling the way that I was feeling, and finding ways to mitigate that and to reduce that pressure and reduce that risk. And a lot of it was put on by myself, because one of the things that I did was kept a worry diary. So they encouraged me to write about something that gave me huge anxiety, and how I felt, what caused that trigger, why did I feel that way, and then reflect on it a day later. And what did I think was the worst case scenario? Why did I write that? And then when you look back at a lot of those worries, it was actually, that client asking me to do a tax return on a Friday afternoon at 4:00, the huge amount of pressure I felt, I didn't need to feel that. And it was just because it was everything all at once. You just don't get the headspace to think outside of that. So it was understanding those things going on, and understanding the chemicals in my brain telling me what I needed to be really anxious about. Suddenly you start to see things a little bit differently, and then you reflect on it, and it's just all the different tools they give you to cope with it. Some of them worked for me. I did quite a few. They didn't really work. Others did. But a lot of it was just admitting I needed to get some support, and then having people around me get me through that.
Yeah. And I think that understanding that other people get it.
Yeah. And it's amazing how many people, when you speak to them and say what you've been through, they would have been through similar, and they just, again, no one really talks about it. And yet when you do open up to people, they're like, yeah, I had that 10 years ago, and then you chat for 25, 30 minutes, and you realize there's a few other people that have been through similar, but nobody really talks about it.
And this is why, and I think it looks like, in the chat, people are expressing that they have had similar experiences. One thing before we get onto the kind of the more the medical side of this is, I think I've felt before that when you're thinking about seeking help, to believe that there is any help other than, I just need to get this work done, I need to be able to get through it, I need to be able to complete it. So going to the doctor isn't going to help because they can't do the work that needs to be done. I mean, I'm guessing, is that something that you felt, and is that something that's really common, Shamas and Fionn?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely that scenario where, you feel that there's internal and external factors essentially that are obviously driving stress and burnout, and it's really hard to address both on your own. I think having sort of tools, as Tom was saying, to deal with that and to try and help reduce the stress and the way that you're feeling helps. But obviously if you're getting lots of work and you're trying to meet deadlines, and there's all new regulatory changes coming out all the time, and it's so hard to keep up, I think it's really hard to kind of stay on top of that without getting your support network and getting other people talking about it and thinking of ways that you can reduce that as well.
Yeah, I also think it's very difficult, especially if you're working as part of a team and people aren't speaking about it. You might look at your colleagues and think they're just powering through all this work, an equivalent amount of work that you're expected to do, and everyone's just in that mindset of, oh, they look okay, I should be okay, and it just gets in a bit of a spiral, and that's kind of how it leads to the stress, and people get to the point of burnout.
Well, I certainly, I think we're going to come on to kind of what does get done and what can be done. Because as I say, I think if you're in the thick of it, then understanding that help is effective, not just the fact that it's available, but it is going to be effective, is really going to be useful. So we'll absolutely look at that. So again,
Well, just on that point as well, what I found was it's diminishing returns, because I was trying to fight everything and get everything done all of the time. It meant that it was worse and worse to try and get things done. It wasn't until I got that support I realized I would be sitting in front of a job that should take me 10-15 minutes, and I would struggle to get that done over an hour, because I would be focusing on so many other things, because I just couldn't get my brain in gear to tackle that job. So it is so easy to say, no, I just have to sit at my desk. That's the only way I will get any work done, is by sitting at my desk. Actually, sitting at your desk all day with burnout, you won't get as much done as if you do go and get that support. And I found that now with like my business that I've set up, I can see the signs coming, and I have to really force myself to get off my desk. Even though everything I've been through, I still have to really force myself to get off my desk, because the mentality is, well, if I'm not working at my desk, I'm not getting anything done. But every time I take that break and just recharge, I can get more done than if I just sat there staring at a screen.
I agree. It's so hard, isn't it? Just to go, okay, my solution to having a lot of work to do is to stop doing that work for a bit. Is really counterintuitive. And I think just one thing that I've really struggled with personally is, and I think certainly since COVID, we've all started working from home a lot. I think we're all at home today. Is there's no you go from one meeting to the next with completely different context and completely different agendas, without a stop between, because one finishes and the next one starts. You don't even, you're not walking to the meeting room and getting a cup of tea on the way. It's one after the other, and after 3 or 4, when you're literally having to, your brain's all in one focus, and then you have to whirl it around and think about a completely different subject, and then do that again. That's absolutely exhausting, and something that I'm sure we all struggle with. But have you presumably this has, the post-COVID working from home, hasn't helped with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, sort of the digital environment that we're in now, where everybody is contactable at all times of the day, makes it so much harder to switch off and to get that rest and recovery in between. And yeah, as you were saying, Andy, just going from one task to another, one meeting to another, and switching between all of them, it's your brain's not getting that rest to sort of recharge, reflect, as you were saying, Tom, and sort of get onto the task at hand. So I quite like to think of it as a car. If you're driving a car, you start off with a full tank of petrol, and you might be halfway through your journey and you notice, okay, I need to top up the fuel tank again, and you might need to do that a couple of times to get to where you need to go, and it just takes 5 minutes to fill it up each time. But if you ignore the warning light, as I'm sure a lot of us do, but if you ignore the warning light, you're going to end up breaking down. Your car's going to be on the side of the road, and you're going to be waiting 2-3 hours for the AA to come and get you. So I think thinking about it in that way is quite a useful analogy. You need to be fueling up and getting that rest and recovery in between, even if it's 5 minutes between meetings, to get that cup of coffee, go for a walk around the office. Really important.
So the medical profession, I'm guessing that wasn't stress-free either.
No, definitely not.
What happened to you guys?
Yes, we both actually suffered from burnout when we were working as doctors. For me personally, I was working as a doctor for about 6-7 years, never had an issue. And yeah, always just got on with the work. It was fine. Obviously, it's a stressful job, but yeah, never had much of an issue as far as I thought. And it took something happening outside of work. So in my instance, my brother became quite unwell, and that just kind of tipped me over the edge. You know, my glass was already full, and that just, yeah, caused me to go through burnout. So in my case, it was something outside of work that tipped me over the edge, because the stress of the job left me with no reserve, and I had nowhere to go when life things do happen. So that's kind of what happened to me.
Yeah, and I think with me it's very similar. Obviously, it's a job that does demand a lot out of you, and very similar to accounting in that, yeah, you just get so many different pressures all the time, so many regulations and things to keep up with, and you're trying to do your best in a difficult system. And I think I noticed that I was definitely getting that sort of disengaged symptoms. So it's your body's way of sort of protecting itself. You're kind of taking a step back. And for me, that was quite a difficult position to be in, because I obviously went into medicine because I really wanted to help people and I wanted to do my best. And I felt that I wasn't able to give the best sort of treatment that I could for my patients. And I think that was sort of the biggest sign of, okay, should I maybe take a step back here and sort of think and take that rest and recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, okay. Well, we've I'm conscious of time. We've talked a lot about like how, you know, what this looks like. It would be good to explore kind of what does that treatment look like? What can people do in the short term? What can people do in the long term? And then what I'd like to do is have a quick look at the poll. So looking at the results, it's a pretty even spread. About 20% of people saying that they feel overwhelmed, finding it hard to focus or think clearly, feeling tired at work, not being able to sleep. And I think sleep is a big warning sign, right? Not being able to get that rest to reset your brain only exacerbates the problem.
100%. I think it's, yeah, because you're constantly in that high alert mode, your body's constantly prepared to deal with things. You've got that adrenaline all the time, and yeah, it really affects your sleep and it just gets into that vicious cycle again.
Yeah. So luckily, 10% of people, fewer people expressing that they snap at people or feel on edge, which is, I think, simply because accountants are lovely and would never, ever snap at anyone. I've never met an accountant who would snap at someone. Have you, Tom?
Yeah, I was incredibly irritable.
Oh, you're one of the 5%. You're one of the 10%.
Yeah. I'll be honest. Yeah, it's not. I'm not a nasty person or anything, but it would just be. Well, I'd probably say that more dismissive. You know, my poor partner would say, "What do you want for dinner tonight?" And I would just sit there with my head in my hands and say, "I don't know. Can you like just make the decision for me, please?" And you like, it sounds so ridiculous when I reflect back on that. That is how that conversation went, but it was because I just mentally could not process that question at all whatsoever. So yeah, I totally relate to anybody else that says they feel snappy, and you know, you're on edge all of the time. Like I feel like it's a rubber band, and it's been stretched so far that the tiniest little touch on that rubber band sends a reverberation all the way through. And that's how I felt when I was there. It just, the tiniest little things would tip you over. Like Shamas was saying about the glass being full. It's literally, you're on that limit all of the time, and it takes something really small to just tip you over. So yeah, I totally relate to people that go.
And then you're taking it out, because there's talk in the chat of you know, this is about relationships, and a few people have suggested that their relationship with HMRC and Companies House is possibly not helping this stress. But when you talk about relationships, you are talking about people around you, you love, and you're often taking it out on them. And I think that's when it really causes difficulty. Mm-hmm. So let's look then, if we can, at what when you go for treatment. If someone looks for help, say they came to you, or they go to the GP, or they go to Mind, as another example. What can they expect is going to happen, and what treatments are there for stress?
Yeah, so as Tom was saying, obviously everybody is individual and not everything's going to work for everyone, but taking that first step to go is so important. So if somebody was to go to the GP, they would sit in the room, have a chat with the GP, just talk as much as you feel comfortable with. So the GP is not going to pressure you to talk about anything that you're not ready to talk about. It's going to be a very safe and confidential space, and actually just having that first conversation and taking the first step, as Tom was saying, it's the biggest and it's the hardest step, but afterwards you feel so much better, even just having that initial conversation and having somebody to listen. Depending on what you say and how you're feeling, it might just be a case of, okay, we've had a chat today, I'm going to refer you for some counselling, or I'll signpost you to, there might be different local groups, whether that's Mind or the local group that you went to, Tom, just so that you can again start talking, and maybe go to talking therapy as well. The GP might book in a follow-up appointment to see you in a month's time, see how you're getting on. And there's also options with medication as well. If you're suffering with depression, there's a huge overlap with burnout and depression as well. So those are kind of the different options, but the GP is not going to force you into doing anything that you're not comfortable doing. It's all going to be taken at your pace and what you'd like to happen.
So they will listen to you, and that's I think what sounds like very valuable first aid in starting to admit that this is a problem and to start addressing it. We talk about, well, I guess the question is this about kind of restructuring your life, or is it restructuring the way you see your life, or is it about restructuring the chemicals in your brain? You talk about medication, which is, I guess, doing that. But is there a solution or a workout where you can say, okay, I'm going to restructure my day? People have been talking in the chat about putting a 45-minute walk, non-negotiable, in the middle of the day, which is great. But is there a formula or a structure for that?
Yeah, so I think that's what we do with our work just now. We focus on the structuring and the environment that you're in that puts you under stress. So that's something that we work with our clients on. So there's lots of different things that you can do. Again, some things will work for some people, some things won't, but getting that structure and that planning for rest as well as planning for your tasks is kind of the main message I think that people should maybe start to think about. Just think of it as, another task to do is that you need to have your rest, and it's a non-negotiable. And if you're leading a firm, you should start to think about that for your employees as well. So that it's a system-wide change, and we start to undo this sort of burnout being normalized as part of the profession.
So is that something that you do, or is available that someone will come in and work with you for a day and say, okay, you focus on this? Because I guess there's an element of like the discipline of time management, isn't it? Just
exactly.
Yes.
So the tool that we use, we know that pressure and productivity are really closely linked. So we measure productivity and time pressure, as well as the mental, physical, social pressures as well. And that's what we do, is kind of working on time management, whether that's outward facing, sort of setting expectations and boundaries with clients so that you're not getting interrupted at your protected hours, putting in sort of deep focus sessions as well if you focus better in the morning, blocking out 90 minutes and making sure that you don't check your emails until after that 90 minutes is finished. Things like that can be really helpful just to protect your own peace and time.
what's the thoughts on, whether you're self-employed or you were employed and you have a boss? Now, if you're self-employed, your customers are your boss, and if you're employed, your boss is your boss. Speaking to them about that, I mean, is it advice, or, I mean, I guess no one's going to say that it's a bad idea to do that. I mean, Tom, have you spoken to any of your customers about it?
Yeah, funny enough, I was just thinking about, I wanted to raise this, and when I started my practice, I've always been one of those people where after COVID, people had my phone number. So I saw people messaging me on WhatsApp, and then I was also getting Instagram messages, Facebook messages, emails, LinkedIn messages, and it was just becoming like I just couldn't keep up with all the different places. And I was chatting to a lady called Anna Lake from Client Talk, and I was telling her about this, and she said, well, why don't you just tell your clients how you want them to communicate with you? She said, you're stressing yourself out with all these different means of communication. Just tell them if they need to speak to you, then they need to do it through this method. So I came up with an email, sent it all to my clients. I did not have a single bit of kickback whatsoever. They just got it. They just went, okay, he wants us to email him with any questions. And if it's urgent, it's a WhatsApp phone call. So I know now if a client does ring me on WhatsApp, it's urgent. And if it isn't urgent, I am being a little bit braver with people and saying, look, I'm really sorry. Can you send this to me via an email? And that's part of the like toolkit I've built over the years now, is I'm protecting myself from saying, right, I'm one of those people where I'm a people pleaser. I want to help everyone. I want to do this, but I will burn out if I do that. I've got to stop myself and protect myself. So I do that. And I'll also manage expectations at the very start of a relationship with a client now. So I used to be one of those people that says, I'll reply to you within 24 hours. I don't say that now. I say, look, I'd love to reply to you within 24 hours. I'll do my best, but I've got lots of meetings going on. I'll try and get back to you within 48. And it might just be a quick email to say, I've acknowledged your email and I'll get back to you by this day. And the same with phone calls. If someone tries to ring me and if I can't answer, I'm really open from the beginning that says, if you try and ring me and I can't answer, I'll pop you a quick email back. Can you give me the details of why you were calling in an email? And that isn't going to work for every client, but it's going to protect me more and help me in my day-to-day with running my practice, so I can help the clients where they're fine with that. And so far, I don't think I've had a single client complain that when they've tried to ring me, I've not answered. I might get the odd comment here and there, you're always too busy, but I just use the analogy, when you're looking to walk into a restaurant on the high street, do you want to walk into the busy one or the quiet one? And you just have to book a slot. That's it. And, it's a bit of a silly expression to use, but it does work. So yeah, I just protect yourselves. If you're finding a pinch point that's creating you a huge amount of anxiety and is pushing you over that edge, just take a step back and talk to somebody else. That's what I love about accountants therapy, is if anyone has a problem and they're struggling with it, we put it in the chat and loads of people jump in to come up with ideas, and I magpie from that. I take the ideas that other people have got and go, yeah, I'll try that in my business. And I'm just building up that wall of protection now, not a wall of defense, it's a wall of protection. And that's really helping.
I mean, I think I spent a lot of time speaking to our customers and our accountants generally about how they run their firms. And it does strike me that particularly in accounting firms where they're independently owned and there's maybe 5, 10, 20, 30 staff, it's not uncommon for people to, we don't work Fridays, we take Wednesday half day, and there does seem to be a lot of more sort of respect for time. But I'm sure there are people who either do work or have worked who are watching now who have perhaps had bosses where that hasn't been the case, and may still be doing so. Having those conversations with your employer is, I think, really important. We've all known when you see people, there's one person who just works relentlessly, and you're thinking, I'm going to put up the barriers. I'm not going to, just to let you know, I'm not going to be working till 9 o'clock every night. And once that's done, if you don't do that, there can be an expectation that you do it. I mean, I don't. You must have had clients who have felt that, Shamas and Phil.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's, just modeling those boundaries, I think, is hard to do initially, but definitely so valuable. And I think a lot of it in the bigger firms is starting at the top as well. So leaders modeling behaviors for junior members of staff. So a great one that we've seen is, obviously sometimes you only get time to answer an email later on in the evening, but the leaders put a line underneath to say, I'm answering this email at this time, but this is because this works for me. You've not got any pressure to reply at this time, reply when it's convenient for you.
Right.
And I think just something very simple about that, but so important, communicating the expectations.
So if you are employing someone, I think that's really huge. If you got reports and you're saying that, because we all do it, we all send out emails late at night. I think that's a wonderful way of doing it, to say I'm not putting an expectation on you to respond and us to have a conversation at midnight on a Thursday. It's just I'm the one with the problem. I don't want to put it on you. I think that's a really nice idea.
There's a good little trick you can do with that as well, where I was finding I'd reply to a client at 8 o'clock at 9 o'clock at night because I had to take some time off in the day or something to spend time with my kids. The client would reply back and say, brilliant, thanks, are you free now? And you're like, well, I've just replied to that email, so they know I'm free. And then I've got that, they're fine when I say, look, it's in the evening, I've done this because it works for me. So I now do a delay send on my emails. When I work in the evening, I set those emails to go off at 9:05, 9:10, 9:20 the next day, because then the expectation from the client is they're getting an email the next day. They don't really need to look at it at 9 o'clock at night anyway. It can wait until the next day. So I just do that delay send. So that's a really good tip for anybody listening, is do that delay send.
Completely. And it looks like people are doing delayed send quite a lot, and that's a good way of doing it. But I just think that's a lovely way of doing it, just to say, look, I'm going to respond, but the expectation isn't on you to do that. And that's especially true if you've got reports in your firm and you've got to deal, because you need to be conscious, I think, that if you're working in a team, you could be the source of stress as much as you could be the recipient of it, and being conscious of that is important. Is there a way that we can apart from awareness, that employees in firms are able to, like here's a fact pack that you can kind of give to your manager and just say, look, because I know this is something you work on, which is about productivity, putting it in terms of, you're going to get more out of us if you respect these boundaries. And how can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. I think, again, it all comes back to the culture and what's expected of you as an employee and as a leader. And I think actually with, not to generalize, but with sort of Gen Z coming into the workforce, I think they are much better at talking about boundaries and putting things in place to make sure that they do leave on time and they are answering emails at within their working hours. So I think it's, again, going to have to be quite specific to the business, but having those feedback loops and working together, whether that's with a HR department or with the senior partners to make a pack, I think is a really, really great idea, and one that businesses should be thinking about doing.
So having I guess if the leadership in a firm are expressing this and they're giving a space for their staff to go, I shouldn't feel bad about putting boundaries up, and I shouldn't feel bad about talking about this. That's really, really positive. Linda asked in the questions, and this is a tough one to answer, I guess, but she says, how do you practically organize rest for your staff? Have you seen any really good examples, and what do good examples look like?
Yeah, it comes down to what is the main kind of stressor or the main bottleneck within any particular firm. So, for instance, if it's an issue with the rate of work or deadlines, then that could be an issue with kind of more outward facing things. So things like client submissions are always really late, and there's a kind of a culture that that's what the clients do. They submit all their papers really late, and that in turn creates a lot of rate strain as we measure within the team. So what we kind of do in our work is really target whatever the specific issue is. So I know it doesn't really answer your question, Linda, but it really depends on what your team is mainly struggling with and what their main strain area is.
And I think when you schedule meetings as well, I think that's quite a good way to, when you're organising rest for your staff, making meetings 50 minutes instead of a full hour. So the expectation is, we'll do this meeting for 50 minutes, we'll stick to time, everybody has 10 minutes rest between either the next meeting or going on to the next task, and encouraging everybody to put that into their diaries, and blocking out sort of rest time as well. It could be, depending on how many staff you are and the structure of your business, but you could block out 90 minutes of focus time where staff members don't get interrupted, whether that's from junior colleagues or meetings or anything like that. And they've got that time to focus and time to rest afterwards as well. And you can sort of rota that across your team, and so that everybody gets that protected time.
I think that's what one thing. I mean, I've seen doing, and I do myself to an extent, is to try and block out some time, because I think the danger is if you don't do that, your time gets taken up by other people, and then you find yourself going, those jobs that I needed to do today, I'm doing in the evening, and then you're working late, you're not getting the rest, you're not getting the recuperation. So putting in time and saying, I'm not going to talk to anyone between 2 and 3 because I'm working on that project. And you shouldn't feel guilty about that, and you shouldn't feel that you're ignoring requests. This is as if I was driving and I can't talk. It's the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think lunchtime as well is also quite a nice time to do it. So
what's that again?
At lunchtime, I think that's
I'll
quite
Google
good.
that.
So yeah, just at lunch. So taking a team walk, if you're in an office or if you're working remote, trying to organise to all go for a walk after lunch together, I think is quite nice. And again, you can manage client expectations by saying between 1:30 and 2:00, this is the time when the team are having their lunch. And again, as long as you communicate that, you're not going to get disturbed, and you can have that physical movement as well, which I know we've not talked a lot about today, but you get that fresh air and you get a bit of movement into your day as well, which also helps with your productivity and just generally feeling much better.
There's also, just to piggyback on that, there's also great evidence with going just for a short walk after eating. It really stops the spike in insulin that you get, and it really helps with productivity and that kind of the after lunch slump that is really common.
Yeah.
I've recently started working with Fionn and Shamas, Andy, on my own situation, and we had a call the other day where we were looking at the report that they produced into my strain levels and burnout consideration of things. And honestly, the little changes that they've suggested have already made a big difference in just being able to manage my own time and be more productive. And it's not dramatic. They're not big changes. They are just small little changes that have made a big difference. So for example, one now is, we were talking about my most productive time of the day. So I found that I'm most productive very early in the morning. So now I've blocked out my diary, and we talked about what sort of tasks I'd be tackling in that time. And I'm now picking the tasks that I've been dreading. And I've already found I'm getting those difficult jobs done quicker because I'm doing it at the right time of the day. And I've also changed what time I work on, like my admin. I'm picking a time of the day where I'm going to be tired, and that's when I'm getting on with my admin that doesn't necessarily require like the fine detail attention that an accountancy package does. Yeah, and it's just that, and they've identified things that I'm doing that are self-sabotaging, and I'm working on that as well. So already, just talking to someone that knows what they're talking about would be a good suggestion to anyone.
Do you think you would have come up with those without external help? Do you think you'd have?
So I think a lot of the time we have an idea in our head as to what would help us. I didn't necessarily need Shamas and Fionn to say, look, you're at the risk of burnout. I knew that. But then having someone that knows what they're talking about say, look, you know this, Tom, this is what the report is saying. It validated it, and it told me, like, that subconscious that's saying to me all the time, you can get through this, you can get through this. I had an expert that knows what they're talking about saying, you need to change things, and we can help you with that. It did massively change my mindset on what I needed to do. And like I say, it's with all of these different ideas that we all have, they don't work for everybody. So it is a case of I'm going to be picking out the resources that they're giving me and going, right, that one I've tried, it doesn't work for me, but this one does really work, and I'm implementing that in my day-to-day.
I'm so glad it's helping, Tom. I'm glad you're
No,
you're finding it useful.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. And look, we are coming to the end, and first of all, I would really like to thank you guys, Tom, Shamas, and Fionn. Really, really useful. Thank you all for joining us in the chat. Really appreciate your help. I put a poll live. We want to do this more. We don't think that one kind of hour-long session is going to make a whole lot of impact. Hope it has. Hope it's been of some support. But the poll is to ask what you would like to see us cover in future sessions. So avoiding stress and burnout in the first place is probably a good way of doing it, and we can come back and look at how you can structure your time, and we can do some case study stuff and workshop some ideas around that. But there's a lot of other issues. I think that if you're running a team and you are responsible for a team, I think that would be worthwhile covering. How you can structure your firm so that your team are productive and not burned out. But it's going to be probably at the end of June when we'll run another session, and we will email you all to make sure that you are aware. Please do spread the word about this. If you know anyone who you think is not getting the help they need and need help and would like to be able to kind of share in an environment like this, please do let them know. If you've got staff or if you have management who would like to come along and find out what the impact of stress is and how they can avoid it and avoid it in the people that they work with, then again, let them come along, tell them about this. It will be great to grow this into a big community that has some clout, and we can actually get some things done, which would be really positive. Any final comments, Tom, Shamas, Fionn?
I just want to say thank you very much, Andy, for organising this. I think, the work that you're doing with TaxCalc, especially with the study to bring light to this issue, something that's very close to both mine, Fionn, and obviously Tom's heart as well. So, I just want to thank you for your work and, helping spread the word.
Yeah, and thanks everybody for coming today as well. I really enjoyed the session.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks, Tom, for instigating the whole thing. Tom was the one who called me and said, "Andy, we need to do something about this." So,
thank you, everyone. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And for anyone that wants to have a chat, just reach out. Doesn't have to be me. Doesn't have to be the person you sat next to. Just talk to someone would be the only best advice I'd give.
How can people get in touch with you guys, Shamas, Fionn? What do you want to drop something in the chat if you?
Yeah, I think Tom's kindly popped in our LinkedIn, and we'll pop in our website as well if anyone wants to contact us that way. More than happy to have a chat at any time.
Fabulous. And I think in the next session we're going to take a look at your diagnostic tool, and we may be able to distribute that to the people. If you register earlier, you can do that diagnostic, and we can talk about the results and what you should do based on your results in that next session. So keep an eye out, and we will see you in a few weeks' time. Thank you all. Have a wonderful long weekend as well. All the very best. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.